think we will go back to now an industry within industry, which is to do with groceries. So Ankush, so over to you, and we are very keen to learn from your experience, and you have a very good combination of multi industry experience. So maybe we would request you to relate to your current and previous one, and give us a complete, holistic perspective. Over to you, Ankush.
Sure. First of all, Runa, thank you for putting me in a situation like you have, a batsman walking in at number 5, and you have three great stalwarts of the industry. They've played a century level innings, and I have to fill up their shoes, which is an extremely difficult task, right? But I
But I
still,
thought you were a Javed Miandad. You are going to put the sixer and ensure India
uh,
wins.
I've left that for Sujit to take care of it. So I try to just take cues from what Hari, Yuvraj, and Girish have mentioned. So on the specifically, I think Hari beautifully defined what are the e-commerce categorization looks like, and what companies are e-commerce. From an employment point of view, I think I'll just add on to it. Uh, when an e-commerce firm, or for that matter any other firm, actually generates employment, it's not just an employment generation or a position open in isolation. There is always an upstream and downstream towards it. Like in an e-commerce, there will be a supplier system, there will be a vendor system. So for every job that an e-commerce company creates, right, there are always 4 to 5 or even more jobs which are created in the downstream or upstream of an e-commerce platform. So that is where I think e-commerce is really fueling the growth in terms of job creation in this country today. And I think very, very correctly mentioned that earlier it used to be some BFSI, IT, ITES, right? They've all had their stints, and I think right now this is the time for e-com companies to step up, and they're doing it, and to create more and more job opportunities within the organization, and as well as in the upstream and downstream. From an employment point of view, I think two domains very categorically stand out for me, and I think Yuvraj also mentioned. One is the supply chain part of it, because I don't think any e-commerce company can survive without supply chain. Right? The success of an e-commerce company today actually lies on the whole supply side of it. Right? You can generate demand. There is enough smartphone penetration in India, but the whole, and I'm being very specific to the sector that I belong. Without an efficient supply chain, without an effective supply chain, no matter how much demand you generate, you will not be able to sustain. Second piece would be the technology piece. In terms of, we talk of digitization, we talk of automation, we talk of differentiation. And today, as we go on serving more and more consumers, we want to have, more share of the pie. I think technology will play a great differentiator in terms of, how do you differentiate one organization from another, or even how do you differentiate between an offline and an online player. So these are two areas where I see a very, very bright future. As you mentioned that, the job market is a bit, pessimistic or not looking that great. But I think for these two domains, it's definitely an upswing. And in fact, this is the time where most of the organizations will and should invest in, strengthening these two functions. One is the supply side of it. Second piece would be the technology piece. From an employability point of view, I think all three of them have covered most of the generic skills that we will need in a startup or an e-commerce organization. But there will always be a demand for subject matter expert. You will still need your technical and functional skills, right? Your degrees or whatever you want to call them. But I think few things, as Hari also mentioned, agility, innovation. Now, apart from that, I would like to focus on 4 key things. One would be that ability to take risks, e-com firm. And as Girish also touched upon, there's a huge pace at which you work. We are looking at high growth organizations. Business models are changing quite frequently. Your decisions keep on changing, right? So your ability to take risks and your ability to experiment without the fear of failure is one comfort level that you should develop. Second would be how comfortable an individual is with dealing with ambiguity, right? So in our kind of sector, there is like, I can relate to it that, I worked in some of the very old brick and mortar, very process established organizations, for doing everything, there is a protocol, there is a standard operating procedure, well drafted for 62 pages, 3 volumes. You have to go through it. You log a ticket, gets done, right? This is not something that you will see in a, e-com firm or a startup. That is not going to happen. So your ability to deal with ambiguous situation, your ability to thrive in chaos is another, softer area that you would, require in a upcoming employee if you want to hire in your organization, or people who are interested to join the e-com organization. Third would be more in terms of problem solving. So it ties down with what Girish mentioned, that people needs to be hands-on, right? So you don't look at people from a point of view that, compartmentalization of functions. Like, I am in HR, I will do these things. I am in finance, I will do these things. Are you good enough to solve a problem for the organization, right? Either as an individual or through a cross-functional or a collective effort, right? Last thing would be in terms of, ability to unlearn quickly. A lot of people, and this is especially for, people like me who were onboarded into this e-com bandwagon from, organizations which were like extremely process oriented. So we had to unlearn a lot of things to settle ourselves in the organization. So adaptability to a very chaotic environment, ambiguous environment, your problem solving, your ability to take risks, and how quickly you can unlearn and learn new things. These for me are the 4 key skills that you would need in any e-com specialist that you want to onboard. More, because of this COVID thing, these 4-5 behavioral skills, and I think Yuvraj also mentioned about temperament. Temperament and behavioral skills will be a lot more in focus as compared to your technical and functional skills. I would even say that, you would actually, go 90% on 90 upon 100 on, the technical and functional skills, but you will not compromise on behavioral skills, especially the COVID and the post-COVID era. These are some of my initial thoughts, Runa. Back to you.
So the next question I'm going to ask Ankush is, what is HR's strategic role in creating a digital platform of online learning going forward? So Ankush, would you like to throw some light?
Sure. I think I'll just take the cue from Girish. He mentioned about, the push for digitization. Like, we've always been, struggling with, automation and digitization in HR space or in general in organization because of whatever reason. But I think what has happened during this crisis is that there is a inherent push from within the organization. Like, people are now wanting more and more processes to be digitized. And I think in my books, how do I define digitization will be not just mere automation. It has to be backed by a lot of data-driven decision making. So automation plus data-based decision making is digitization for me. Very specifically to L&D, I think with Amla touching upon the remote onboarding, remote recruitment, right? And, we are in for a remote working scenario in a longish future, as we all foresee. And whether it is going to be 6 months or 1 year or 2 years down the line, I think the concept of social distancing, the concept of remote working is here to stay. If not 100%, maybe 60 to 70%, it's going to have an impact on how organizations function. So yes, definitely there is a need, there is an urge for, automating and digitizing the entire learning space, right? Because I think organizations will not stop learning. They should not stop learning. The ability of an employee to learn new skills will be more important than it has been ever before. So there has to be a push on, a digital space for learning, or digital space for, employee development or talent management. That is a given. It has to be there. And I think that will decide the future of the organization as well as the employees. How organizations will differ from or differentiate within the sector or differentiate across the sector. I think this will be a big push, and technology again will play a very vital role.
Now, Ankush, you need to give us that winning score, which I said sixer, with your concluding point, and we are keenly waiting for you to give us that winning point.
So I think as all the panelists have mentioned that it's a difficult time. We all agree, and let's face it, and let's be positive around that. This is going to pass for sure. I think, like our customers, like our consumers, we need to reach out to our own team members, our employees, right? They are also anxious. And I think very specifically for us as HR fraternity, as HR leaders, this is one thing that we need to inculcate within our organizations today is the sense of empathy, sense of kindness, and sense of appreciating people. While Girish mentioned that we should be more effective, in all agreement with that, but I think that sense of empathy with people, reaching out to them, bringing in that positivity in people. If somebody is feeling down, let's lift that guy together. You know, for me, that's the true role of HR today in this scenario. I completely agree with everyone. This will pass, right? We will all come out of it as much stronger as an organization, as individual, as a fraternity. And this is a tough time for HR to revisit its approach towards people. Right? We've been all molded in a classical HR approach, but I think this crisis has forced us to revisit that. And I think we will all come out of it much, much stronger, much, much effective.